Hello there, beautiful souls. Rosanna Hannes here with a little Rosy Glow Grace transmission because today's been a very interesting day. As I'm making this video, we are in the aftermath of our equinox, and obviously where I live in this world, we're coming towards the light. For others, we're coming towards the darkness. And when we're in an equinox state, we get to see things like we ask the question, immediately we start to get a response. If you haven't yet checked it out, I offered a transmission on Sunday, which was basically a download of what I see is really going to help everybody at this stage to be able to create more peace in our own lives and also to see it reverberated into the collective, because we're shifting our vibration and those around us, the world at large, will respond. It has to. But here's the thing. You know I have a little fascination with the movies and with entertainment and how life imitates art, and also how we are programmed to expect things to be a certain way. And as a result of that, we keep creating more of the same. So many of us are involved in doing work where we clear the trauma of the past, or we clear the past unprocessed pain. We can work with reprogramming the subconscious, which I call the past. But we also have the present consciousness and we have the future. And our expectations of the future are based on the past, unless we're absolutely badass at being able to become aware of how our consciousness is either helping to create a new situation or feeding an old story, an old narrative. So in asking this question, what is the revelation that is required? What revelations are required to unite us in peace? I wrote a little note so I don't go on too much about this, but essentially, when we're looking at the world from a multidimensional perspective, we're seeing that there are different stories all being played out at the same time. And we're also aware of the fact that we have a predisposition to see things a certain way based on our early programming. Now there's loads of evidence and science around that. You can look at epigenetics, you can look at early influences, pre and neonatal influences, and there's even a cross-party manifesto called 1001 Days, and it's all about how important our early life is in terms of shaping our long-term reality. So it's not like the powers that be don't know it, it's just what is being done with it, especially as we have a good 60 years worth of research to back it all up. For now, the memo is this: what can we do? What are the revelations that we need? And if I go back to the movie analogy, I believe one of the hardest things for humanity to grasp at the moment, to swallow, to digest, is the fact that there are those in our vicinity that maybe don't have the same intention as us, don't have the same desire as us. Maybe they don't want the world to be peaceful. Maybe they thrive on the conflict. Maybe it benefits them one way or another. And we kind of accept that corruption is systemic and we get on with it and say this is the way it is. But that is a complete outer reflection of an inner reflection. And that is that within us, we also have corrupt beliefs, corrupt files, corrupt aspects that aren't going the same way that our consciousness wants us to go. So the subconscious is always influencing our expectation of the future. It is in our programming. Our consciousness is how we're perceiving in the present moment. And those of us who are on a path that is growing into co-creating from our higher selves rather than our egos, our programmed self, we're really constantly fine-tuning in the present moment what it is that we most need to become aware of as a belief that is holding us back. So as I was doing my morning looking at alternate narratives and mainstream narratives, as I do with my beloved, we actually came across two that were very, very interesting. One of them was about what's going on where there is currently war in Eastern Europe, and it was about the fact that the government was promising those who have lost their jobs because of what's going on that they would get aid so long as they agreed to having digital passports and also the you-know-what. Now, that's really interesting, isn't it, when we're in a very intense and like, oh my God, let's get aid to people, that we would put those kind of conditions in place. But there's quite a lot in the mainstream media at the moment at about the supposed threat of individuals, that it is essential we're all in some way surveyed so that we can actually keep an eye on them, right? So it's for everyone's good, because there's these villains out there. Now, the other story that I came across and I read, and it's a UK government paper, was actually basically the way it was interpreted by Dr. Mike Eden, is that ultimately there is a question as to whether the last 2 years and the measures that have been in place for the last 2 years were ever needed at all, and whether they were actually known to be ineffective from the start. So this brought me to, in all of the action movie stories, there's always like someone within the institution that is supposed to be saving others that is corrupt, right? There's always someone that's actually an informant to the external threat. So whether we call them a mole, which used to mean a spy, but it actually means an informant as well, there's always someone within the internal structure that isn't actually wanting what the highest good is. It's got a personal agenda that relates to the external threat. So if we allow ourselves to accept that within us there are those moles that aren't actually wanting to go the way of the higher self, but they want to go the way of the ego because that feels right. It's so ingrained that that is the way, and the perception is that is the only way. We can't trust anything else because that's what we know. I'm going into the mind of those perhaps that don't have the highest agenda, so work with me on this and suspend your disbelief. And so the solution really is perhaps to accept that that is going on internally for all of us. And so if we accept also that within every organisation and institution that is potentially there to protect us, there may be those that actually have a different agenda, then the answer to that is what? Well, what I feel humanity is facing as the biggest kind of aha moment is the acceptance that people that have been trusted deeply, wholly, have perhaps not been in alignment with the truth. And in so doing, the revelation that I believe would need to come for all of us to be on the same side, as it were, is to realise that in all of the presentations we have been given in the mainstream and the alternate narratives of truth, right, of threat, the external threat, whether it's a virus, whether it's bacteria, whether it's aliens, whether it is another nation, but the external threat was basically amplified and distorted in order to meet an internal agenda, to keep things as they are and to progress them towards an agenda that isn't perhaps what we would all really want if we knew and all cards were on the table. So this is what's happening. If we actually watch what's going to go on the world stage in the next 6 months or so, I believe we've got one jaw-dropping moment after another coming, and then the question is, how did we get here? So what would it take to unite everyone in peace? What is the one narrative that can unite us wholly and completely? And to me, it is the recognising that all of the external threats that we have been told to be fearful of, that we have been told to protect ourselves against, actually were by and large amplified, maybe fabricated. And when we actually accept this and accept that there are key players within all of the spaces that we have gone to, external authorities that we have looked to for reassurance and safety, there have been those who have been perpetuating an agenda to basically not steer us towards the highest good, but towards narratives that suit others. This is what's going to allow us as a humanity to evolve into the 6 pillars of divine human leadership, which I will make a little post about tomorrow. And I think it's very important for us to remember that our conscious mind is only not 5 to 10% as powerful, it is said, as our subconscious. But when you actually sit with this for a moment, it's also the gatekeeper that decides whether you're going to see things in a way that allows you to be solution focused, or whether you're going to see things in a way that is going to keep you in a state of struggle and battle and conflict. And my lovely friend Emma Buggy, and we are going to be getting that podcast out in the next few days, who is a specialist in authentic and compassionate communication, she has on her website the fact that non-violence equals compassion. So, for those of us who are seeding StarPeace narratives into the collective consciousness of humanity, we are united in the desire to evolve humanity into a race of non-violence, into being able to deal with conflict in a non-violent way. And that is the doorway that opens to compassion. To lead and create a new reality, we have to put the higher self-consciousness in control. We can't actually lead from our wounded selves, our programmed selves, because we will only create more of the same. You can clear the memory, but your expectation of the future will be based on the current beliefs you have, which have been informed by your memories. So these constantly need to be challenged. What else is possible? Can we create something better than this? What's for the highest good of all? What's the win-win-win? And in how you and I contribute to this, we learn to be discerning. We learn to accept that words and actions don't always line up. We learn to accept that hurt people cause pain. We accept that it is important to forgive, but it is also important to be discerning, and so we don't create the same problem and believe the same issues as they arise in the future. It's learning to recognise the wolf in sheep's clothing, to not make them bad. They have their agenda, they want to survive, but to make the choice ourselves of what we want to align with, surviving or thriving. And that's the memo, my friends. That's what we're really working with. So I'm just going to invite everybody to open to the idea that it is possible for us to unite, to have a series of revelations occur that allow everybody to drop the smaller conflict stories and to go, wow, okay, we've all been basically pitched against each other, pitted against each other. It's time now for us to drop all of that, to seek out where the informants are for the agendas we don't actually want to propel, to allow ourselves to believe what is difficult to believe but is still essential for us to move beyond, and to allow ourselves to look for the signs of change. We are so capable of something completely different, my friends. If we want to, though, remember this thing. In your own life, wherever you feel as though you're stuck and you're banging your head against a wall, take a step back. Stop trying to go at it again and again, hoping that you're going to eventually get it down. Step back and ask yourself, what is out of alignment in me with what I truly want? Reveal it to me. I want to see it. Where are the aspects of my consciousness that want the opposite or something different to what my higher consciousness wants? Every day, remember, all of March, 20:22 p.m, imagine peace. Just allow yourself to bring it in. Sit with it. Allow it to inform your consciousness of what else is possible. And just be very, very aware that narratives are going to get more and more, obviously conflicting until we can really see where we're getting the misinformation from. And I am being very, very soft in the way I say everything today. Sending you lots of love. Please open your hearts to this possibility. Join StarPeace on Facebook, #StarPeace. It's a group seeding the New Earth narrative. And also please come along to rosieglow.com and sign up to the Star Salutation Divine Legacy Upgrade, because we're all waking up. We're lightening up. We're lightening up our light bodies and seeing in the darkness what is there. I was working with a client today and it's like, oh my gosh, as she opened the lid, she was like, there's so many conflicting beliefs in here. And I was like, yeah, celebrate the fact that you can see this now, because now you can see it. You can move beyond it. Whilst we're in denial of it, we haven't looked inwards, we can't. So part of the cleanup is to see the mess. Let's get on with cleaning up. I love you. Take care.